And yes, I'm doing a lot of naked guys with lines in their body. But
I love it. It's great.
anyway.
Hey, this is Comics with Bueller, and we're here at Rose City Comic Con with none other than Neal Adams.
Yes.
And I have a question for you right off the bat.
I have an answer for you. Let's see if they match.
Besides the money,
that's it.
you decided.
That's it. I'm sorry. That's it.
No,
Money.
this is a good one. Besides the money, what made you decide to draw naked men with lines on their body?
That's all they wanted. They said draw some. Well, they didn't say naked men. They said draw heroes, but that's basically what they are. And as we know, and as you have your previous information found out, you know that I'm tell the truth, and they are basically naked men with lines on their body, bats, S's, all that stuff. And I actually decided I was going to make them a little bit different. If you look at my Superman, it's a little bit different from my Batman. Not a lot, because muscles are muscles are muscles, you know. But I don't actually choose to do naked men with lines on their body. I would rather draw a gorilla.
Okay.
Naked gorilla, but a gorilla nonetheless. Or giraffes.
Or ladies?
Women, yes. Women actually are more interesting than men. They have that subcutaneous layer of fat that makes them like supple and smooth, and they're very hard to draw. Men are not. They like, when they get enough muscle on them, they look like rocks. Like rocks put together, like Jack Kirby things. Rocks.
Very good. Well, I like the women with lines on their body. That's what I prefer, obviously.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying it's not a challenge to draw the same thing. It's like drawing Betty and Veronica.
Yeah.
You just change their hair. But you have to understand that art is what you make it. So if you look at the work that I do, and yes, I'm doing a lot of naked guys with lines in their body. But
I love it. It's great.
Anyway, no, I get to draw a lot of other things. You get to draw dinosaurs, and you get to draw. And the other thing is what I get to do, because, okay, we're going to get to some honesty here.
Okay, great.
But it's beyond just regular honesty. This is something else. But there's this thing called Bigfoot and Littlefoot. You know what a Bigfoot artist is and a Littlefoot artist? You have no idea.
Is it referring to Rob Liefeld?
No.
I don't know.
Okay, a Bigfoot artist is a guy who draws cartoons like Mickey Mouse. They have big feet and big hands. Okay. A Littlefoot artist is a guy who draws like superheroes with little tiny feet and little tiny hands, They just big bodies. Okay. So that's a Littlefoot artist. I started out as a Bigfoot artist. I did cartoons. Mm-hmm. And when you do cartoons and you learn to do animation, you learn to make your characters flexible. You learn to make them animate what they're doing and what they're saying or how they're feeling or how they're acting. It's almost like mime, So when I translated that Bigfoot sensibility into realistic Littlefoot stuff, then I did more animation than you would normally find on a drawing. So because I knew anatomy, because I knew that kind of movement, the characters, instead of just standing there going, flexing, they did things. They moved, they fought, and they fought in different styles of martial arts and things like that. So that takes the edge off of, just muscle guys.
Yeah.
So if I get to do a little bit more flexible stuff, and some comic book artists have learned to do that, and that makes their stuff much more interesting because, in all honesty, just superheroes just standing there and reciting copy is the most boring thing. Bad enough that they're superheroes, bad enough they got muscles, bad enough they all look the same, but they're standing there reciting copy. Sometimes guys will put in like Xeroxes of another panel because they're so bored with the copy. That's not how you do it. What you do is you add to it and make that conversation have some life to it and some. So I do get challenged, and I do make the choice of saying, it's I would rather, instead of two muscle guys, I would rather have Humphrey Bogart talking to an actress or something going on, and good camera shots and good lighting and other things. So there's challenge you can find beyond the muscles.
Yeah, you have to be a fan of Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
And you based Ra's al Ghul off of Moriarty, from what I understand, or somewhat
Moriarty
similar.
and
Yes.
Batman off of Sherlock Holmes.
Very nice.
I mean, a lot of people don't realize that Sherlock Holmes was a martial artist and very, very capable. They have in particular scene where a character whose name I forgot comes into Sherlock Holmes's domicile, and just to show Sherlock Holmes that he's tough, he takes a bar from the fireplace. What do they call those bars from the fireplace?
Fire poker?
Huh?
The poker?
A poker. Takes a poker. Hard word.
Yeah,
for
poker.
me to
There we go.
Takes a poker and he bends it, right? Mm-hmm. And then he leaves, and then Sherlock Holmes goes over to the fireplace and he takes the poker and he unbends it. And you got to go, whoa. No, that guy's not a little guy. This guy's tough. So when you read something like that, you go, yeah, it's like Batman.
Yeah.
Something like Batman. So there's nothing about Batman that I see any more than I see in Sherlock Holmes. I see Sherlock Holmes being an older day Batman.
Yeah.
He doesn't go around in funny costume. What, he wears that coat and hat.
A little bit.
Deerstalker hat and stuff. You know. But a very, very capable individual. So that's, for me, Batman.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about the spectrum of superheroes. Batman being on the beginning level and Superman being on the top level. Obviously, he's pretty much invincible. He's
an alien, for Christ's sake.
He is an alien with,
I think
incredible
powers.
He had multiple
sexual organs.
Yeah. It's awesome. Who would you put in the middle of that spectrum? That's what I'm curious to know.
I don't know. It would never occur to me to suggest such a thing because there's no middle between an alien and a human. Okay. So because aliens are aliens, I mean, it's aliens from another planet, and so because of this, I don't see a middle. I mean, there's maybe you could say Namor and Batman, who lives under the pressures of the ocean, but we don't see. That's also the thing about comic book superheroes; they're so different from one another. I mean, people like to say, "Yeah, it's just another guy in a costume." Well, if it's just another guy in a costume, he's a shitty character. Yeah. But if he's different, if he's an Aquaman or Namor, or if he's a gymnast who goes into whatever he's doing, he's gymnast, or if he's let me see. Well, you can't take an alien anymore because they're very weird. An archer without the boxing glove arrow. Then they're all individuals. They're all different characters. So I don't see finding a mid ground as being a valid question.
Okay. That's fair enough.
But it was a crappy question. I gave you a crappy answer. So there you go.
I'm full of crappy questions.
And I'm
That's
full
kind
of
of
crappy
what
answers. There you go.
I based the channel on crappy questions.
Okay.
Well, here's another one for you. Okay. So you've had the opportunity to draw Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
And you had the opportunity to draw Mr.T, Clubber Lang.
Mr. T.
Mr. T. So who wins in this boxing match? I want to know.
Well, I don't know. I don't think Mr. T would win, but I think Mr. T would give him a good fight. No, Ali is the champion. He's the greatest. He really truly is the greatest. You say, well, Mike Tyson. If Mike Tyson fought Ali, he could win. And I would say, I think this would figure him out. Yeah. And he would outsmart him because that's how he fought. Yeah. The one thing he didn't, the battle of life, he didn't fight quite so well, but the battle of being the boxing champion and being the champion for his people made him head and shoulders above everybody, in my opinion. Mr. T, very, very, very likable guy. Very likable guy. Made friends with my son, Josh, when we were doing that Mr. T comic book. Yep. And we went to the gym together. He wanted to go off and awesome. Worked out by himself, but he's a very, very nice person, very nice human being.
Any chance of a Mr. T and the T-Force reboot?
I think that you'd have to ask Mr. T.
Oh, that'd be great. And you got to get on board if that does happen.
I don't know.
He's such an iconic guy. I mean, look at him.
I think I do my own stuff. And Mr. T is just fine. I don't step in other people's doo-doo. he's good.
Well, speaking of your own stuff, you have a book that's out right now, Batman versus Ra's al Ghul.
Yes.
And just came out. The first issue was out just, I think, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, or a week ago.
The second issue, it's a monthly series, correct?
Yep.
And you're doing the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Writing, art, you name it, it's all you?
Just to terrify everybody. Exactly. Well, it is not a book. It is a series of books or a series of stories. And it starts with Batman Odyssey. And it goes into Dead Man. And now it comes into Ra's al Ghul versus Batman versus Ra's al Ghul. And that's a fake title because it really is about Ra's al Ghul and Batman, not versus one another, but in the same arena, doing the same thing, but not to each other. They're screwing up the world or not. So now, when I did Batman Odyssey, I got a lot of criticism because I was not aware of the internet and its impact on comic books. Because even though I did advertising, I was not aware of this insanity on the internet. And I was advised by DC Comics that ignore it.
Yeah.
And I stupidly ignored it. Now, I'm really good at criticizing, at talking back, because I have a science channel. You go to my science channel, if somebody attacks me, I put another hole in them. So I thought, well, I'll buy that. I'll listen to this. Maybe they know what they're talking about. Well, they didn't know what they were talking about. So I took lots of hits on that. Well, that turns out to be one of the best books ever done.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who reads that book from cover to cover has to sit back and go, wow, that was an experience. But that wasn't just that experience.
Yeah.
That goes into Dead Man, and it goes into Batman Ra's al Ghul. And it's a very deep and very long story, and it's about the world today. You know how Denny O'Neil and I did Green Lantern and Green Arrow? It's that kind of depth in the world. It has to do with corporations working with each other, then changing their direction, working against one another, people taking revenge, and then working toward a goal that may not have been very, very peaceful in the end, but may settle the question. So we have, and people don't quite realize it, you really have to read between the lines in Batman Odyssey. You have to pay attention to, there's a car sitting in that pier, and Batman goes over to that car, and he goes to the exhaust pipe, and he turns a little nozzle, and he takes the glass, and he puts it under the exhaust pipe. Water comes out, and then he turns it off, and he takes the glass, and he drinks that water. You can read all the rest of the stuff with the dinosaurs and all the rest of it, but if you miss that little glass of water, you're missing the whole story. So you have to pay attention to that. And if I were you, now you're starting reading Batman Ra's al Ghul, I would go back to Batman Odyssey, I would read that, I would read The Dead Man, and then I would read Batman Ra's al Ghul, because it all goes together.
Everybody, Neal Adams, Comics with Bueller. Have a good day.